Everyone's in a panic evacuating the Shagohod hangar. Everyone except Ocelot, who strolls out of the building as if he has the entire situation under control. And knowing Ocelot, he probably does. Meanwhile, Snake staggers out of the hangar, exhausted from his 2 rounds with Volgin. Were he to know that he still had a 3rd and 4th round ahead of him, he would be both not pleased and not surprised.
Hop in.
Thankfully, Snake can put his feet up for a moment, as Eva appears on her bike, this time with a sidecar. But what follows is not a quick getaway, but a tender conversation. Held only a few hundred meters from the presently combusting Shagohod hangar.
She asked me to tell you something. I've never seen someone with such clear eyes. There. I said it.
Whatever that means. They really should have made a run for it while they still could, because now they've got a seriously pissed off mechanical monster Shagohod on their tails.
Hey! It's not over yet!
Finally, we get to see the Shagohod in action, and we also get to see how Eva and Snake function as a team.
I can't shake him.
RPG can't put a dent in that armor.
Let's head for the rail bridge.
Bridge? I thought you rigged it with C3.
I did. We'll lure him onto the bridge.
Blow him up along with it. Good plan.
The bridge is on the other side of the runway. We'll have to cut through the middle of the base. You ready?
Step on it. If he catches up to us, we're done for.
Ocelot once again appears out of nowhere to intervene. This time, he has mounted one of his revolvers onto a shoulder stock. That's how you know he means business. He then gives chase on a motorcycle of his own. Ocelot drives them back into the burning hangar. This backfires on him as he is nearly crushed under falling debris. Ocelot swerves on his motorcycle to avoid the falling objects. And it seems like he was clear of the danger, but Snake still fires his rocket launcher at the debris to knock it out of the way. Was that to protect Ocelot or to prevent their escape path from being blocked? Either way, it's here that Ocelot gives up the chase. Perhaps because his performance here is complete. Eva and Snake continue their escape, assaulted on all sides by enemy soldiers, until they finally reach the runway, where things get even worse. Out in the open here, they are pursued by soldiers on motorcycles, a helicopter, and of course Volgin. The Shagohod finally has a clear stretch of land on the runway to reach its top speed, possibly for the first time in its existence. Eva makes a sharp right turn in the direction of the bridge. So blinded in his pursuit, Volgin barely has enough time to brake before the tarmac ends and he nearly crashes into the base of the mountain before course correcting and continuing the chase. It buys Eva and Snake enough time to get across the bridge and detonate the charges. Despite spending so much of the preceding hours of the game telling us that C3 is very stable and won't easily detonate accidentally, we are made to shoot the C3 on the bridge with a gun instead of using a detonator.
We did it!
The plan works, somehow, and the Shagohod is sent plummeting into the river below.
It's over.
Until the dust settles and they see that the Shagohod has just lost its big booty somehow, and the front half of it is still clinging to the remains of the bridge, and somehow launches itself into the air to do a backflip and then land a few feet from Eva and Snake. Things are getting extremely anime around here. And also extremely Metal Gear.
For luck.
And also, Eva kisses Snake and he's now cool with it. And then another battle commences with Volgin. This time he's decided to surf on top of the Shagohod, which fortunately is a very stupid thing to do, which makes Snake's job easier. Somehow, Volgin is able to control the Shagohod with his electric powers by holding onto its wires. Okay, ultimately, it's not Snake who defeats Volgin, but the rain. Volgin attempts to use his abilities again, perhaps drawing the lightning towards himself, which causes him to combust, sending the bullets of his bandolier popping in all directions like popcorn. Thank God he's finally dead. Definitely demised, passed on, no more, ceased to be, expired, gone to meet his maker. He will definitely never show up in later games, right? Right?
Fried by a bolt of lightning. A fitting end. It's finally over.
With the fireworks being emitted from Volgin's corpse, Snake and Eva stare into each other's eyes. This is the part of the story where the two attractive leads are supposed to kiss. But instead, Eva opts to hug Snake, and it is a very nice hug. You could feel it through the screen.
No time for this now. The escape craft is just up ahead.
Another chase ensues, this time by flying platforms and motorcycles. The enemy seems unaware or unperturbed by Volgin's evident death and the destruction of the Shagohod. Without Volgin, who are they fighting for? Who's in charge? They race through the forest, swerving through trees before making an impossible leap down a sheer cliff face.
Looks like they finally gave up.
Don't start celebrating yet. We're leaking fuel.
Damn it. Tank shot up.
For all the anime antics so far, at least the fuel tank was shot and didn't explode. Very realistic. Eva is so distracted by the fuel tank that she nearly collides with a tree, sending the two of them flying. Snake lands on his back hard. It is then that the motorcycle spontaneously explodes for no reason. Ah well, the realism was nice while it lasted. Snake crawls, or should they be slithered, over to Eva, who has been impaled on a tree branch. Eva wants to give up, so she receives a classic naked snake motivational talk.
I can't believe this. I never thought I'd see you act this weak.
What do you mean?
Listen to me, Eva. We're doing this together.
No, you...
Eva, I need you.
Say that one more time.
I need you. I can't fly the wig by myself.
All right then. I guess I'd better help you out.
Snake contacts the paramedic, who for once is being a no-nonsense hard-ass.
I'm pretty sure you know this already, but if you don't have enough supplies for the both of you, your wounds come first. Do you get my meaning, Snake? You've still got a mission to complete.
Yeah, I know what I have to do.
Snake treats Eva. This is the only time in the game another character will be seen in the survival viewer. Once stabilized, Eva will slowly stumble behind Snake as they head towards the lake. Stealth is crucial as the Soviet soldiers have yet to relent in their pursuit. If they make it out in one piece, Snake and Eva will eventually reach the lake.
It's the boss, isn't it? I'll go get the wig ready to take off.
Right.
I'll leave you two alone. But come back in one piece, okay?
Snake and Eva go their separate ways, leaving the showdown between the boss and Snake ahead of us. You are listening to Metal Girl Solid, one woman's journey through a series she knows nothing about. I am your host Courtney Colson, and this is episode 14. This blog runs from hours 7 to hours 8. And the reason why this episode is covering 1 hour of game footage is that a lot of it is just chase sequences. There wasn't a lot to discuss. This blog begins with Ocelot and Snake evacuating the weapons lab, and ends with Snake heading towards his showdown with the boss. And I gotta be honest, I really switched off at this point when playing the game for the first time. I was enjoying the more grounded and realistic elements of the game and the story leading up to this point. Then all that realism and careful research is thrown out of the window and characters are suddenly able to do the impossible. The Cobras were acceptable because there was this sense of non-ordinary reality. It was a spiritual journey set in a Cold War spy thriller. I love that concept, or kind of like Apocalypse Now, but more so. But Volgin and the Shagohod represent elements of anime and science fiction that I find tedious. I don't know, maybe as I've gotten older and after 15 years of superhero movies with increasingly improbable CGI third acts, it just washes over me as white noise at this point. There's no sense of consequence or urgency. And I know some of you might be thinking, Courtney, it's a video game, it's not literature, it's not a movie, it needs a big climactic boss fight. I know. So what's my idea of a satisfying conclusion to a game? Well, I think the other Metal Gear games I've played so far have had satisfying conclusions, although they're kind of complicated in that there is more than one ending, depending on how far you choose to go in completing the game. And also, the supposedly disappointing ending in MGSV, I would argue, was the intention. The hollowness of revenge, the tragedy of Venom Snake's life. It's sophisticated and nuanced. Okay, you're thinking, Courtney, Snake Eater is meant to be like a Bond film. Since when do they not have big dumb boss fights? And to that I say, yes, you're right. So perhaps within the limits of the medium and the pastiche, this was the only logical way to conclude Snake Eater. Except it's not the conclusion, is it? Yes, this was the only logical way to conclude the Shagohod and Volgin storylines, but imagine my joy when I realized that this wasn't the final act. This was a story with a fourth act, and arguably all Metal Gear games have a 4-act structure. The true ending for Snake Eater was something far more emotionally profound. But we aren't getting to that just yet. We've got an hour of obligatory action sequences to get through. This game still reveals more and more details to me every time I look at it. Remember last episode when I wondered when Ocelot made a promise to the boss not to kill Snake? Well, we don't get any such promise, at least not verbally, but what we do get is a glance between the two of them. As I was uploading the last episode, I was scrubbing through the Shirako playthrough. And what do I find at hour 6, 49 minutes and 22 seconds? The boss and Ocelot exchanging a bit of a knowing look and a nod at each other. Ocelot seems to be in league with the boss. For how long, who can say? But I never noticed this interaction before, and I'm willing to bet some of you are in the same boat. This is a bit of trivia that isn't particularly relevant to this episode, but I only learned about it now. Sokol means falcon in Russian. That's where Sokolov's name comes from, I'd imagine. It's a little bit too badass for him, though, don't you think? So, Eva's quote of the boss, that I've never seen someone with such clear eyes. It's not clear to me that, well, even the way the line is delivered or the script is structured there, that she's even quoting the boss. The first time I heard it, I was like, wait, was that it? Was that the quote? Oh, okay. I've never seen someone with such clear eyes. I think the dialogue is messy because a lot of the times it's a very literal translation of the Japanese. And also, what the hell does it even mean? I tried to see if there was an equivalent Japanese phrase and came up with nothing? Clear vision doesn't seem to particularly relevant to Snake, at least not at this point in his life. He doesn't have a vision or a direction of his own outside of the boss and Fox. Eva hugs Snake, and their bodies can only get so close with the limited animation, but hang on, no. It's not an insurmountable technological challenge as I initially assumed. Because later, another hug between Eva and Snake in front of Vulcan's exploding corpse, that hug is perfectly close and realistic, so what happened? After the first hug, Ocelot gives chase on his motorcycle. Just whose side is he on? His license plate translates to Cat, 3756 COT, which is Kilo Oscar Tango. Skipping right ahead, Eva pulls herself off the tree branch she is impaled on. Yeah, I know, I really don't have anything more to add of all the Volgin scenes. Nothing, I'm done. Eva pulls herself off the tree branch that she's impaled on, and that is a very bad idea. That's not how impalement is handled in real life. I would have liked it if Snake had tried to saw the branch off so that Eva could walk around with the branch safely holding her organs and blood in place. As you can tell, I am not loving this rude and sudden abandonment of any semblance of realism. And don't get me wrong, I am not one of those people who thinks an entire story is ruined if it doesn't adhere strictly to real-world science. But internal logical consistency is crucial for any story. Whether it be set in Narnia or Neverland or the Soviet Union, you set up your rules and expectations in that first act. They really should follow through to that third act or fourth act. I also don't really have much to say about the part where you lead Eva out of the woods. I know it frustrated a lot of players. I guess they're just impatient. It wasn't really a problem for me. It was an added challenge. But that's the point. And playing for the first time, I found it novel. It was just changing things up, adding a new aspect to the game, seeing someone else's survival viewer, treating someone else. It was just, I don't know, a welcome change. I didn't think too much of it. But my question now, it only just occurred to me as I'm recording this script. It didn't dawn on me, but can Eva die if untreated? Or is there no way to progress? I can't remember, because I think if you call the paramedic, you have to open the survival viewer. I don't think that's an option. It automatically happens. And I don't think you can exit out of the survival viewer if you don't treat her. I don't remember. And then, so I've got the PlayStation version of this game and the PC version, but you can't just skip specifically to certain scenes, which is a bit frustrating unless you save specifically at that point, which I don't think I have a save around this part of the game. But if anyone knows, I would be curious to know if you don't treat Eva or she dies, is it game over? And then why would it be game over? Because she's not entirely relevant, but then I guess you can't proceed as expected. On the Wig, you wouldn't encounter Ocelot, so I mean, I've read the game guide, I've done a lot of research, and I don't think that pathway exists. But I'll be very curious to know what happens. If you don't have enough medical supplies, does she die? Or are they just hinting at a possibility that never came to fruition? Maybe it was considered. And that's an interesting prospect of, if Eva dies, so you can get through the forest probably quicker, you can get to the boss, all of that probably goes down the same way, but once the boss is killed, well, you can't pilot the Wig. And you encounter Ocelot again, so that ending would be totally different, but we never see that, and I don't know if there were even plans for such a thing. I guess you don't really need Eva. If Eva died, I'm thinking about this more. If Eva died, is she that important to the rest of the plot? Because she has to be there to take the philosopher's legacy from Snake. But then it's Ocelot who actually stole the real one anyway. So, no, Eva isn't actually important, except maybe to take Snake's virginity and break his heart and share some of the final bits of conversation between her and the boss. And I'm presuming she comes back later and she's important and whatever, but yeah, in Snake Eater alone, having played games like Baldur's Gate, where there are so many alternative pathways, I can't help but my imagination wants to go down that pathway of, well, what if Eva did die? Simulacra and simulation. Simulacra. I'm not sure if this counts, but my nomination is for the anthropomorphized Shagohod. In this block, we see the Metal Gear roaming like a dinosaur and lumbering around like just such a primitive beast. Anthropomorphization is another distortion of reality that the human imagination can often engage with unintentionally. There is a part of us that expects the Shagohod to take on this monstrous quality. If it weren't so, we would feel it lacking, even though it resembles no version of reality we are familiar with outside of fiction. There is an early film by Steven Spielberg called Duel from 1971. It's great, check it out. A man is relentlessly pursued by a truck, or is he being pursued by the driver? Well, we never learn if there is a driver or not, but given the lack of a human face to place the blame on, one can start to view the truck itself as the monster, the villain of the movie. Not unlike Christine, a novel by Stephen King. Is she possessed by Roland LeBay, or was she already inhabited by an evil spirit? It is never made clear, and the book and the film versions differ in this respect. So in this basic semiotic sense, the vehicles of these films and books and games are all the signifiers. But the concepts they represent, the signified, comes from something beyond the vehicle itself. The vehicle is merely a symbol of a concept that in reality resides within the human operator. And bit of an aside, years ago I wrote a script for a documentary I wanted to do about mankind's love and fascination with the automobile. It leads to this anthropomorphization, this animism, this romanticism, and even eroticism. Cars are the signifier. By that, they are able to reflect so much about human desire and interest and aspirations. And I never did end up making that documentary. Maybe I will one day. Maybe after Metal Girl Solid. I got too many hobbies, too many projects. Simulation. My nomination is for directional sound. Yep, just good sound design. This one probably uniquely affects me. When I played this game for the second time, it was not long after the car accident that made me deafen my left ear. I was playing the game with headphones on that time, and when Snake was in the sidecar next to Eva, if I was turned around shooting at the enemies, I could hear her. And then when Snake was facing forwards, I couldn't hear her. So, for me at least, it was simulating that experience of the real world. I mean, thankfully, Snake's is to the right of Eva. So, if I was facing forwards, can't hear her. But when I'm looking at enemies, when it's really important, I can hear her shouting things at me when I'm looking away from her. But when I'm sitting down next, I had no idea what she was saying. So, for me at least, it was simulating this disability, this difficulty that I would experience in real life. If I was in this situation, I would have that same challenge. And, if I had been listening through TV speakers, the sounds would be coming out of both sides of the TV directly in front of me, so it wouldn't have been an issue. The Piggyback Game Guide. In this segment, we're talking about rears. After defeating Volgin for the first time, you flee with Eva from the Shagohod. You can't destroy this monstrosity yet, but it can't really harm you either. During the wild ride through Groznygrad, all your weapons have unlimited ammunition as well as Snake's gauges displayed on screen. You will also see Eva's life and stamina meters. Both Snake and Eva must survive, but the dynamic duo shouldn't be too hard to protect. The biggest danger here is inexpert use of the rocket launcher. Be careful not to hit something at close range, as you may sustain damage from the explosion. Occasionally, Eva will stop when guards block the way forward. Switch to the first-person view and fire at them. You should wear the sneaking suit, or if you defeated Volgin without resorting to deadly force, the Cold War camouflage. The Soviet soldiers won't fire at the Soviet flag on Snake's front, but will, remember, have no such reservations when presented with a clear view of Snake's rear. And here's another reference to the rear being the vulnerable spot. This is when you are fighting the Volgahod, as they refer to it as. The Shagohod's vulnerable spot is at the rear of its cockpit. Oh, that's very naughty to say, isn't it? Using the RPG to blast both treads, this will paralyze the vehicle, enabling Eva to move around to its vulnerable rear. As soon as the back of the mighty weapons platform comes into view, fire a missile at the target, fire up its clacker as we say in Australian. The Shagohod will now be invulnerable for a short time. There is no deeper insight into the Volgahod fight here. I think it's everything we already know. There's no real trick to it. We're so close to the end of this game, and therefore this game guide, but we will not run out of things to talk about after we cover the boss fight, because there are about 50 pages of bonus material. So we'll see what's in there, although I've flipped through it, and it seems there is a bit of stuff about Solid Snake, so I will not be covering those pages. But if you want to see those, I guess you're going to have to try and dig up a copy for yourself, which is surprisingly not that difficult. They're not too expensive. The Japanese novelization. Page 392. I just love the way this passage is written. Eva takes his hand and places it against her own. Seductive but wounded by espionage duties. They are wounded by their mutual obligations. His body is not merely a weapon for the soldier's mission, and hers is not merely a tool for the spy's mission. Page 393. We get a more detailed origin for Snake's sneaking suit. The time for rest was over. After dousing the fire with water, Snake prepared for battle with the equipment Eva had brought him. Didn't they have normal field uniforms? It had been abandoned. It was in such a bad state, so that's only natural, right? Snake put on the black combat suit, which resembled both a rider's jumpsuit and a spacesuit. It wasn't as stuffy as it looked, and it fit his body well and was comfortable. He immediately realized that it had excellent performance. Where did you get this? A scientist from the weapons lab brought your uniform into their office to analyze it. It was there. Apparently it was developed from spacesuit technology. The SIGINT communication device was a specially made product by Fox. It was only natural that the people developing the Shagohod would want to analyze it. While wearing what must be translated as a sneaking suit in English, he noticed something. It looks a hell of a lot like the boss's combat uniform. Aside from the size and color, of course. You can feel it when you wear it. Even though it is cutting-edge special equipment, it is designed to be compatible with US military field uniforms. The holster and belt also fit well, even when used with US military equipment. Or would a Soviet military field uniform been okay? There was no way he would get a US military uniform in enemy territory. But wearing uniforms that didn't belong to any country made him feel disconnected and uneasy. He prepares his gear and inspects it. His guns and knives look natural against the mysterious suit. The connection between weapons and the human body is less culturally specific than the connection to clothing. I like that line too. Page 399. Eva turns to Snake, her eyes shining with the intensity of a female panther. That's it, I just wanted to include that one. So many cats in this game. 401, Snake thinks back to the first radio call with the boss. As long as we have loyalty to the end, there's no point in believing in anything, even in those we love. She had been right. The boss's words overlapped with his future circumstances. When he had first heard them over the radio during the Virtuous mission, they had seemed mysterious. But now, with no answers yet to be found, they had become a part of him. 404. Snake gets to have a torch? Why don't we get a torch? Snake turns on his flashlight, and shines it into the completely dark underground space. And this is the tunnel preceding the Fury fight. 405. Tools, extremely ancient implements, lit up by the flashlight. And there's a description of rusty iron vibrators? Ouch. There's probably some connection between the fact that the Groznygrad fortress's center above ground is an arsenal and the old munitions factory underground. Chinese writing was printed on an old newspaper likely used to wipe the tools. Bloody Chinese manufacturing and everything. There must be some dark meaning behind the construction of such a large fortress deep in the mountains near the Afghan border, and the fact that the mountains are full of underground tunnels. There's also a reason for the concrete in these tunnels and the pavement of the surrounding facilities. The ancient underground factory beneath the fortress is closely related to this mystery. A vast dark hole in history is opened up. But Snake's mission wasn't to dig through it. This was a passageway for him. The light shone on the floor. There were fresh footprints in the dust. They weren't Eva's boots. They belonged to special shoes with reinforcements, larger than normal. Snake sensed a hushed movement. At that moment he dove sideways. His instinct saved his life. The darkness suddenly burst into flames with incredible force. A brilliant orange flame burst forth like an explosion. The reason Snake was able to move without getting burned all over his body in this sea of fire was probably because his sneaking suit also had heat resistance derived from a spacesuit. Still, it seemed very unlikely that he would be able to withstand the flames of a flamethrower directly. This place was once an underground weapons factory, so there was a possibility that gunpowder for making artillery shells still remained. If it caught fire, it would explode, and Snake was currently carrying a large amount of C3 explosives in his backpack. C3 is highly chemically stable. Even if it were to catch fire, it would not explode, but would burn at high temperatures, making it somewhat safe. But if the explosives were lost, there would be no recovery. See, Satoshi Hase is on my side. He gets it, man. You don't have to worry about C3 exploding, and also you can't just fire at it with a gun and expect it to explode. Hideo Kojima. Snake coughed. It was unclear how much ventilation the underground factory had, but it was an enclosed space. If they light a fire like this between them, Snake will die from a lack of oxygen. 407. A muffled voice comes from the other side of the flames, which are as explosive as the fire. The Fury is also equipped with an oxygen tank that he can breathe from. 408. The Fury is a great example of how science has advanced the art of conquering fire. 409. But still, he walked towards Snake like a living torch. For the first time, Snake saw his enemy's face. Burned and skinned, it was impossible to tell what race he had been. Coughing in the soot-filled air, Snake, he couldn't help but mutter to himself. He had seen many wounds. He knew intuitively how much trauma would leave a person unable to move. This man was in no condition to move properly from the start. 411. We don't get a backstory on the Fury, even less than is included in the game, and I think the novelization came out 10 years after the game, so surely Hase knew what we knew. All we get is that the Fury tells Snake he was an explosive expert, as he reveals a switch and blows himself up. None of the flame dragon from the game, and it seems implied that he was black? He was the first black astronaut or something like that, so very odd. Black Russian astronaut. You don't see those every day. Snake suddenly wondered if anyone could have a complete understanding of the underground of the great fortress of Groznygrad. It was strange that Eva, a KGB spy, had access to a secret passage that even Volgin didn't know about. And if that were the case, there were undoubtedly underground secrets hidden even from Eva. I love Satoshi's fascination with this underground facility, and I mean, it was mysterious for me, but I never thought about it that deeply. That is incredibly strange. Why was this built? For what purpose? And it seems to just go on forever. Thinking as bloody, Dante's Divine Comedy does these 9 circles. It just goes all the way down. And this chapter, I haven't really had much of a review of the chapters so far, but this one I found particularly fascinating and expand. I mean, I love all the backstory stuff that he adds. So the backstory stuff aside, Oh, and I didn't mention, so there was a backstory of Major Tom, Zero, and the boss when in the early days of their friendship, before they create Fox and all of that. So that will also be an additional episode I'll do at some point. But yeah, this episode, this chapter in particular, I loved what it added to the present, to the gameplay part of the story, and just highlighting something that I'm surprised I overlooked. Yeah, this is very strange. Why do we have these ongoing tunnels beneath the ground and no one's using them or surveying them? Okay. But that is everything for this 1 hour block of Snake Eater. So I've actually done a pretty good job of condensing, or there's not a lot that actually happens in this block. But that covers it. See you next time. Over and out.